So as you all know, James Gunn put his name all over this superhero movie. So when Superman started slipping, there was nobody else to blame. From the writing to the press junkets and stuff, James Gunn made sure everyone knew this was his version of Superman. But instead of focusing on what made the character work, James Gunn simply pushed his own spin and politics into it. Now, Superman's caught in the middle of the box office trouble, online backlash, division, and media spin, and James Gunn is still out there pretending that none of it is his fault. Okay, so everywhere you look, the coverage, around the James Gunn film and James Gunn himself and Superman is full of negativity and also have positivity, but almost every single article has some angle trying to explain why this movie is underperforming on the global box office market, and they're not blaming the studio or the script. No, they're actually blaming the audience once again. You see, they're accusing fans of review bombing, of sabotage, but when you look closely, it's the media itself that's working overtime to sink this thing, okay? So it's always the same pattern. The fans are the problem. The critics are the saviors, but nobody's buying it anymore. You see, people can see right through that now, especially with how James Gunn shoved himself into every single marketing beat for Superman, okay? And y'all see the vision in the fandom itself. And now they're throwing out, headlines like Superman's lower than expected international haul could be a long-term problem. Yeah. No kidding. Of course it is. If your movie can't do well internationally, well, guess what? You're toast. But guess what? Superman is actually doing okay domestically. Now there's interest here, but overseas, not so much. And instead of owning up to weak writing or cultural disconnect, well, the media found a new scapegoat. The Superman by James Gunn is apparently underperforming internationally because of Donald Trump. Okay, now apparently Trump did it. Not the script, not the pacing, not the marketing, just Trump. Yes, the rap itself, a major entertainment outlet, ran a whole piece trying to go ahead and connect global box office fatigue to Trump's presidency. They're actually saying Superman is suffering because people around the world associate him with truth, justice, and the American way. And Trump hurt that image. James Gunn already tried to go ahead and walk that plot back in the movie premiere with downplaying the American way altogether. But now they want it both ways, apparently. They erased the patriotic message itself and still blame Trump for hurting the brand itself. I mean, that makes no sense right there. Now, James Gunn's Superman was always going to resonate more with American audiences, but pretending that this is all about Trump's global reputation is basically a new level of lazy. Okay, so superhero fatigue, they're saying, is real, and it's not just international, it's everywhere. But people are burned out with the wokeness and stuff. That's what happens when you pump out a dozen half-baked movies a year. James Gunn is not immune to that trend just because he rebooted Superman. Okay, now, even if this movie was perfect, it'd still be fighting uphill. That's just the climate that we're in right now. And this is the same thing that happened to like westerns and sci-fi movies. I mean, it's just a cycle. The difference is Hollywood keeps cranking them out anyway. Okay, and then acting shocked when the audiences are all tired. Now, there's too many comic book movies, and most of them are mediocre at best because of the stuff that they're putting into it. And when you train audiences to expect garbage, even a decent movie gets ignored. That's what's hurting James Gunn and Superman right now. Word of mouth matters more than ever, and this movie actually has decent word of mouth outside the usual YouTube echo chambers. Okay, now honestly, I'm going to go ahead and say this: normies, the average goers, they're not in these debates. Okay, they just want to enjoy a movie without feeling like they're being preached at. Now, for what I've seen, the audience reaction has, been surprisingly decent and stuff. Not glowing, but good. I mean, people gave it a 6.5 out of 10. I mean, it's got problems apparently to them, but it's not unwatchable. I haven't even watched it yet, so I will watch it soon. So when these media outlets go digging for new ways to throw Superman under the bus, it starts looking desperate at this point. Like this one person who made a ranking saying Superman has never been a global box office draw that Batman is. Okay, sure, but that's not really the full story now, is it? You see, Christopher Reeve's Superman was a global hit. People forget that. It wasn't always this way. You see, the problem now is that they haven't figured out how to recapture what made Superman work in the first place. Okay. Now, James Gunn tried to go ahead and reshape it with a modern tone, but somewhere in the middle, all of the quips and stuff and the commentary he lost what made the character timeless in the first place. Okay. And there's also a version of this that works. You can cut down the side characters, ditch the unnecessary humor, and put the focus back on Superman himself. Not the Twitter takes of James Gunn, not whatever political metaphor is baked into the background, just Superman. Bring in Brainiac, give the people Lex Luthor, let Lois and Clark carry the emotional weight. I mean, that's the formula that seems to be working, but you don't need, 4 subplots and 3 countries. You just need one clear story about Superman being Superman. The closer James Gunn tries to go ahead and make this about current political events that we see in the news and stuff, the more it falls apart. Okay. And and then there's the political nonsense and stuff. The article I mentioned before actually said that Donald Trump's impact on the U.S. image has hurt Superman's appeal overseas. They claim that it's actually harder to go ahead and sell a movie about Americana when the world has, negative feelings about Americans' recent leadership. Okay. That's the logic right there. Meanwhile, James Gunn goes out of his way to go ahead and downplay the American way line in Superman's legacy, then wonders why it doesn't click globally. I mean, that was the whole appeal. Superman was the ideal. He wasn't supposed to be complicated, but James Gunn turned it into seeming to have turned into a lecture instead of a legend. Now, political influences are jumping into the conversation, making things worse. You've also got leftist commentator Hassan Piker saying that this movie is anti-Israel, like it's 2 hours of subtle protest. And then you've got Ben Shapiro trying to counter that narrative by saying it's not an allegory at all. So now it's a battlefield at this point. Superman's not just a superhero anymore. Apparently, he's just a political football. Both sides using him to push their narrative. Now, James Gunn may not have intended it that way, but he did make himself the face of the marketing, and now he's stuck with the blowback. Okay. Now, James Gunn did himself no favors. You see, he came out with a statement that the script was written before the current conflict in the Middle East. Okay, but what does that prove? You see, these conflicts didn't just start last year. Everyone knows they've been simmering for decades. Okay. If you're going to go ahead and you're going to include that kind of imagery, people are going to draw lines whether you like it or not. And even if James Gunn didn't mean it that way, well, he gave people the tools to interpret it however they want. And that's exactly what's happening now with Superman. Okay. So, yeah, this is why it's a mistake for James Gunn to insert himself so heavily into everything surrounding Superman. He thought being the face of the brand itself would save money and build hype. But now every criticism is tied directly to him. There's no buffer, no space to shift blame and stuff. Every bad take, every forced allegory, every change to Superman's character, all of it points back to James Gunn. You see, he tried to be the director, the writer, the spokesperson, and the brand manager all at once, and it backfired. The immigrant angle, the downplaying of patriotism, it just didn't land with the people. You see, blaming Donald Trump for the film's box office issues is laughable, okay? James Gunn and the studio made the choices, and now they're trying to blame external politics for consequences of those choices. Now, the people stirring up outrage about this movie on either side aren't helping at all. Now, Piker fanning flames, Shapiro turning it into content, and Gunn staying too involved in his own controversy. It's just a circus, okay? And Superman is the one stuck in the middle of it all. Now, honestly, despite all of this, there's still mixed reviews out there. A lot of people love it. A lot of people hate it. Superman still has decent legs. Not amazing, but enough to stay alive. My guess is that it finishes around $600 million globally, and that's probably enough for Warner Brothers to go ahead and squeak out a break even. But I wouldn't hold my breath on the next installment being a hit at all, especially not with Superwoman. I mean, that Woman of Tomorrow comic, and its origin is based on is terrible, just pretentious and self-important from start to finish. I mean, it's not going to connect with anyone except Twitter fanatics. Now, Superman, for all his, flaws, still has some broad appeal, but Supergirl, that one's going to sink fast. Now, what's sad is James Gunn actually picked decent material for it as inspiration for Superman. He pulled from All-Star Superman, which is one of the best Superman runs ever written. And then there's even, an animated movie adaptation on YouTube for free that's actually genuinely great, but not quite as good as the comic itself, but it does get close. But it also captures the soul of Superman in a way this new film doesn't, according to a lot of people out there. Now, if you want to see what the character should be, watch that instead. But James Gunn would have done better just simply adapting that panel for panel. Okay. Now, if you care about Superman, that animated all-star movie should be on your watch list. Okay. So people saying that, it understands the character better than this theatrical release. Okay. And that's the irony right there. Okay. We had the blueprint. It was right there. James Gunn had the chance to go ahead and reintroduce Superman in a meaningful way. Instead, he made it about himself. He wrapped it in politics, cast himself in the marketing, and it became a talking point for influencers. I mean, that's the real reason why it's struggling right there. So it seems. Okay. But Superman, I mean, it did deserve better. James Gunn, could have delivered it, but he chose the spotlight instead of the story itself. He made the film about modern themes and stuff, modern grievances and modern politics. He also forgot that Superman's strength comes from being timeless, not trendy. And until they learn that lesson, every new attempt is going to fall short of what audiences actually want. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Be sure to smash that like button, share the video, follow across social media, subscribe to the channel, turn on that bell for future uploads notifications, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace.